Happy Thursday. Happy opening night of the NFL season. Once again, this is your Everything Vols channel, the House of Orange. I'm Frank Rock coming at you. Going into a little outlaw mode here. I'm feeling like the guns are blazing right now today. I see this topic bantered around often about Tennessee and neutral site game. And surprisingly to me, I see a lot of fans throw off on this. Why do we do this? We take away a home game. Why do we want to do it? I'd rather see the game played at Carter Finley Stadium than to be played in Charlotte. I'd rather go to the other team's campuses and play. I'd rather have a home and home with them. You cannot play every single game at home if you're Tennessee. If you get a neutral site game in a recruiting hotbed that you're trying to establish a footprint in versus going on the road, you take that opportunity. You look at Tennessee's schedule for this year, and you go through the games. They've got Chattanooga was in Knoxville, NC State in Charlotte, Kent State, Knoxville. Now you've got Oklahoma, Arkansas back-to-back. That's 2 road games. And then Tennessee has a string of Florida, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi State, 4 in a row at home. They go to Georgia, UTEP at home, and then they go to Nashville, which is almost like a home away from home for them. So 3 true road games for Tennessee this season. 1 neutral site game in Charlotte. 1 home away from home in Nashville against Vanderbilt. Why is this important to Tennessee? I'm going to give you some statistics right now on this. As you go through Tennessee's roster right now, the most players on Tennessee's team, of course, do come from Tennessee. So why did Tennessee change their opener last year from going to BYU to playing in Nashville? 20 guys are on Tennessee's roster from the state of Tennessee. I'm not including walk-ons on this. 20 dudes are on this roster. The majority of them are from that Nashville area. Why do you play a game at the Titans Stadium? It's because that's a recruiting hotbed. That's one of your 3 hotbeds if you're Tennessee. These recruits are spread around. Your second one, currently on this roster, not including walk-ons, Tennessee has 16 players from the state of Georgia. For this recruiting cycle for the 2025 class, Tennessee has 7 commits from the state of Georgia. They have 5 from Tennessee on it. Why do you play in Charlotte? It's pretty easy here. Last year they played in Nashville. This year they play in Charlotte. Next year they open the season against Syracuse in Atlanta on August 30th, unless that game gets moved. Your 3 recruiting hotbeds, if you're Tennessee, in no specific order: Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte. You just got David Sanders Jr., the number 1 player in the nation for this cycle. You have Charles House in the equation for this cycle out of Charlotte. Next year, there's more players. You have Faison Brandon. He's not out of Charlotte. He's out of Greensboro. But there are numerous players in that Charlotte area that Tennessee is after. I've counted at least 5 that they're after, if not more than that. And if you look at the current recruiting cycle in the state of North Carolina, no one has a stranglehold on that state. Tennessee has the number 1 player in that state. But then, man, if you go through it, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, South Carolina, it's just at Duke, different teams. North Carolina State, I think, has some as well. North Carolina, all different teams have recruits, have commitments from these players. If you're Tennessee, in Tennessee's heyday, they didn't get as many guys from Tennessee back then. There wasn't the quality that it is now. The Georgia area, or not Georgia area, Atlanta area, Georgia was big for Tennessee. North Carolina was huge for Tennessee. Virginia was huge for Tennessee. And Tennessee could, back then, they could more or less, I wouldn't say pick and choose who they wanted, but they got a lot more than they didn't. I mean, geography plays into that. But I would venture to say another one they could go to play is Washington, D.C. area, because they have currently 4 guys on the roster from Maryland. They have a couple from Virginia. For the current cycle, they have 1 commit from Maryland. They don't have any for Virginia. I think they need to get a bigger foothold in that Virginia area as well. If the opportunity presented itself for a neutral site game to play in Washington, D.C. from Tennessee, I take advantage of that. because they are starting to recruit Maryland more. They do need to get more of a foothold into Virginia. This game played in Charlotte, and they're supposed to play West Virginia. I think it's 2027 in Charlotte as well. To me, it's a no-brainer. Okay, next year you're playing Syracuse in Atlanta, but you're still scheduled to have 7 home games. You've got to go on the road at some point on it. They have 3 true road games this coming year. Like I said, with one of them and Nashville against Vanderbilt. That'll be more orange than there will be Vanderbilt colors in that stadium. So, like I said, you're not going to get 8 or 9 home games in a season. You're just not going to. It's not realistic. So why in the hell would you want to go play at Carter Finley when you can go to Charlotte, where your top recruit for this cycle and at least about a handful for the next cycle are there and can make that trip? Now, they have to pay for their tickets to come this weekend. But I would venture to say if some of these guys, Delaney, Dunham, Harrison, House, Sanders Jr., Faison Brandon, some of these guys within, hour or two of Charlotte, I would venture to say if the interest is heavy enough, they will be here this weekend to watch Tennessee play in Charlotte. When Tennessee plays in Nashville, especially that first week, your prospects in that area, you get them in the boat. Georgia gets a lot of players in Georgia. They get a lot of the top players. They can't get them all, though. They're not going to get them all. Tennessee has to get their foot in that state because they recruit that state heavily. They've had some good luck in this cycle with players. I bet you if you ask this Tennessee staff, there's more they would have liked to have gotten out of that state. You play in Atlanta, it's a no-brainer to me that you play that because you take a neutral site game over a road game. Why in the hell would you not play in Atlanta instead of going to Syracuse if that's options there? It's a no-brainer. I don't understand why people don't see this, because when you're trying to establish your footprint, you're trying to reestablish this program as a powerhouse that they have not been. Your hotbed areas are Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, and I would even venture to say that DC, at least the Virginia, they need a better foothold in Virginia. But this is an interesting topic to me. But another state, there's 6 guys on the roster from Alabama right now. There's 6 on the roster from Texas. There's 5 from California on here. I don't necessarily know that you go to California and play a neutral site game. Maybe you play a road. I don't know, maybe. No, but here's the thing. If you're playing 3 road games in the SEC, you're basically hitting the road 4 times on it. The 2025 schedule. So they play, their road games are at Alabama, at Florida, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. And then your home games, ETSU, UAB, New Mexico State, and then you're going to have Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt coming to Knoxville, Syracuse, in Atlanta. Again, that's 7 home games plus a neutral site, 4 road games. And you're not going to play, you're always going to play at this point 4 home, 4 road in the SEC. I don't see the point if you're having to play a Power 4 team in the SEC. Why would you not play neutral site opposed to going to their place? Now, I don't know. That's just me on it, especially when you're going to have 3 more home games. You're going to have 7 home games for Tennessee. I don't think it's realistic to expect 8. I think they're going to have to hit the road. So neutral sites in recruiting hotbeds, places you want to establish it, it's a no-brainer. I don't get why people don't understand this, but, hey, to each their own on it. I commend Danny White. I commend Josh Heupel. I commend the ADs for putting this into motion. Games like home and home with BYU made no sense. Danny White balled out of that one, rightfully so, and went to Nashville. Smart move on his part. Now you're going to Atlanta in 2025. I'm not sure on 2026, unless that's Charlotte. I know they've got West Virginia coming up. I was thinking it was 2027. To me, it doesn't make sense to play out-of-conference Power 4 teams on the road. If you can get neutral site, get them. That's why I would buy out for future games. I think they've got home and home Washington and Nebraska. I don't think those serve a purpose, if you ask me. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe they shift that at some point. But I'm going to wrap up on that one. with you today. I put out earlier today Tennessee's defense versus NC State's offense. I had a lot of content on that. I previewed the game on Sunday night. I called it, is this Tennessee, what do I call it? Is this their, or do they become national title contenders this week? On it. Preview, how does Tennessee attack the 3-3-5? Now I've got this as well. Later on tonight, I think I'm going to release something on Tennessee baseball. Their portal class, Baseball America, put out their rankings on Tennessee's, or just on portal class. I'll release that around 7:30 tonight, and then I'll have some content tomorrow. And we'll try to keep it football heavy during the day, the evenings, unless something breaks, and we'll try to get into more basketball, baseball content as we move along. But I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you share this content out, that's a big content. That's a big help to the channel. Last but not least, if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that. This thing is moving forward, guns a-blazing. We're all in. We're going to rock and roll. I'll see you when I see you, and have a great rest of your evening.